bring the land use hearings to order, 10 a.m. County Manager, you could call the first case, please.
Sure. Our first case this morning is PRC 2014-16. It's Antunez rezoning and subdivision. Chris LaRue is our case manager, and he'll be walking through the case for us.
Thank you. So this is the Antunez rezoning and minor subdivision. This is a request to rezone a portion of the property from R1C to C1 commercial, and then it's also minor sub to create one lot in the C1 zone district. Here's the site and the surrounding area. This is Pecos and 70th. Here's are the sites highlighted in the light blue. So the surrounding area is zoned R1C, R2, C3, and C5. It's on the southeast corner of Pecos Street and West 70th. The sites are zoned C1 and R1C. They have a total of 1.04 of an acre in size. Surrounding area consists of similarly zoned commercial properties. There are also residential zonings in the area. Comprehensive plan designates the site and surrounding areas urban residential. Subject property consists of 3 lots with several one-story active retail buildings. 2 of the lots are already zoned C1. However, the 3rd lot has dual zoning, both C1 and R1C, and the R1C is in the southeast rear portion, which is currently used for parking and delivery vehicles. Lot 1 is 0.14 of an acre with an existing convenience store. Lot 2 is 0.18 of an acre. It's vacant but will provide additional parking for the retail buildings in the new subdivision. Lot 3 is 0.72 of an acre. It contains several active retail stores along 70th. Part of Lot 3 is contained within the Calcivic Heights subdivision, and the rest of Lot 3 and Lots 1 and 2 have never been subdivided. They were created after 1972. And the minor subdivision final plat will include all 3 lots and correct an illegal subdivision to conform to the Adams County Colorado Revised Statute standards. Appearance and use of the property remain the same as it has for many years. Combining all 3 lots into one, consolidating small, non-conforming lots, could potentially facilitate future redevelopment for commercial purposes on this lot in accordance with comprehensive plan designation for the site and the surrounding area. It's also important to note by ultimately rezoning the R1C portion to C1, no new single-family home entitlements would be granted as the site's already developed with commercial properties. Transportation Department states drainage improvements are not proposed for the site. Initially, site improvements were not indicated to be needed as the review progressed. However, transportation indicated there are no sidewalks on the property, therefore requiring the applicant to construct those. The applicant would be required to include this information in a subdivision improvement agreement. That SIA will also indicate when the improvements would be installed. CDOT responded with no objections as they stated the proposal would have negligible impacts to any state highways in the area. Excel requested language that be depicted on the final plat. During the conceptual review meeting staff had with the applicants last summer, it was stated the applicant should endeavor to create a plan that's consistent with the landscaping requirements. The current requirements is contained in section 416 of the Adams County Development Standards, and specifically the subject properties either front Pecos or 70th Avenue. Thus, landscaping must abut joining right-of-ways as described in section 416-1901, which lists options for designing that plan. They'll be expected to follow those. And it's important given the high visibility along Pecos Street, and it's a condition on the case. The Planning Commission had considered this case on April 23rd. They recommended unanimous approval, and they had recommended additional conditions stating the applicant would be required to repair the parking lot located on all the sites and stripe the spaces themselves. There was no citizen testimony during that hearing. At that time, the applicant didn't have any concerns with the staff report or recommended conditions of approval. The County Commissioners considered this case on May 19th, and they continued the request to today to was supposed to allow finalization of the SIA for the sidewalk improvements for the property on 70th. Staff did discuss with the applicants after the Board of County Commissioners hearing the deadline and expected time period to obtain the SIA document from the applicants. And staff requested the applicant complete the draft outline that was sent to them. And staff also requested the collateral be submitted with the SIA in keeping with the subdivision regulations in Chapter 5. After that hearing, staff had made many efforts to obtain the SIA from the applicant, but has been unsuccessful. Staff even set a new draft of the SIA. We put applicant-specific information into the draft for them, and then requested that they fill in some of the missing components that we couldn't finish for them, and that was their cost estimates, collateral, that kind of thing, and to complete the exhibits associated with it. The applicant ultimately wrote back and stated the paragraph regarding the guarantee of compliance, which is normally required in an SIA, would need to be deleted. Staff emphasized the SIA must comply with Section 50205, which includes the appropriate collateral. We had discussed this with the applicants on several occasions, the importance of the SIA, the requirements that are contained in the zoning regulations. Ultimately, the applicant stated they would assign the agreement, but they would not provide any collateral. So that's where we're left today. We do not have the signed agreement. They had also provided a draft of an agreement, but it wasn't in any kind of form that the county would accept. It didn't follow our normal process. And so obviously we had rejected that and said, and then sent them the version we wanted and took it upon ourselves to include some of that specific information to try to help them out. But at this point, they have not signed that or provided the collateral that's required. There's the site plan that shows the property on how it looks today. This is the plat that shows that it would be combined into one lot. Some aerials showing Pecos and 70th. The property's highlighted in the blue. There's a closer view. And again, they'd be required to install landscaping that meets code along both frontages. And here is where the curb would need to be installed. There's another view of the property. This is 70th and Pecos. North would be looking down here. Here's the property. Again, landscaping would be required. Here's where the curb needs to go. Here's south on Pecos Street. The property's over here to the east. Here's looking north. Property here on the east. And again, this is where a convenience store is located. It needs a change in use permit. And that's how we discovered the illegal subdivision originally existed, was they had tried to ask for permits, and then we discovered there was an issue with the property. There's another view looking north on Pecos. This is 70th here. That's northeast into the site from Pecos. 70th, you can see in this gap. This is standing along 70th, along the property frontage. You can see the lack of curb. I'm sorry, sidewalk, lack of sidewalk. And there's west on 70th and Pecos. Another view. Site facing south, looking at the facility. So by combining the lots, the applicant would be eliminating illegal subdivision and ensuring uniform zoning on the site. It'd be easier to develop the site in the future as one lot, should they ever consider redeveloping. It would continue to be used in a similar manner as it has in the past, and given the mix of uses in the area, the applicant's proposal would be consistent with the area and neighborhood. Planning Commission and staff had recommended approval to include 14 findings, a condition precedent, 2 conditions, and a note. However, as I had stated, the applicant has not signed the SIA and is unwilling to provide the collateral that we've described that we needed to them on many occasions. There's several options. We could consider another continuance to maybe allow that SIA to be completed. We could perhaps adopt a condition limiting further land use cases and building permits, et cetera, until that SIA is completed. Another option could potentially be denial of the request. And with that, that concludes the staff report.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have questions? Any questions for staff? No questions for staff.
Okay.
Is the applicant present? Would the applicant like to come forward and make a statement? Please state your name and address for the record.
Arthur Raines, 6380 South Netherland Circle, Centennial, Colorado. I'm an architect and a contractor, and I represent the owners of the property and have actually instigated this application from the start. It seems like the only glitch that we have here is the curb and sidewalk, which wants to be constructed in the dedicated portion of the subdivision plat. The lots 1 and 2 on Pecos Street and on 70th Avenue are actually defined by a site plan that I prepared showing the landscaping and entranceways and curb and gutter that basically transportation and the planning department have approved. During several meetings, to back up, and as far as history goes, it was related to the owners during one of the meetings that the county did not have any, I want to say, relative close by intentions of improving that strip of land in the dedicated area, which is 10 feet along the 70th that fronts on the existing center. At this point, we have realized that the county does want the sidewalk, does want the curb and gutter, does want the improvements in this 10-foot dedication of land. So we've been going back and forth. I prepared basically an agreement saying we, meaning the owners and myself, are willing to do this, that, and whatever, meaning construct the improvements, construct the sidewalk, pay for all the engineering services, get it approved, and actually install it, and then get it accepted. Once accepted, basically give the dedicated parcel to the county, and we should be complete with that strip of land. At this point, we would rather, and actually factually, have money to do those sort of things, but we don't have money to put up in lieu of actually doing the work. So rather than saying we're going to go provide a bond to do the work in the next 2 or 3 months, and I just asked Mr. Cortez out in the hallway how long it would take to actually get this through the county, and he said maybe 2 months, but you better allow 3 months for all this to happen. 1, engineering; 2, approval; 3, construction; 4, acceptance. So with all that being said, the owners are willing to sign the SIA agreement, which we've gone back and forth on, but with the understanding that in lieu of the collateral, we'll just go do the work. So if that's acceptable, I don't think we have any issues.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have questions for the applicant? Commissioner Hanson.
My question was going to be whether you're willing to sign the SIA. It sounds like you're willing to sign the SIA with.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
My apologies. It sounds like you're willing to sign the SIA, which is going to be my question as to whether or not you would sign it, but only if it doesn't include the collateral for the work. And so my question is really for staff, which is what is the implication of that? What is that? What would happen if? What's the downside of that?
I'll allow Greg LeBrie from Transportation to answer.
I think the only, again, Greg LeBrie with 4430 South Adams County Parkway. The only repercussion that I am aware of would be if they fail to install the sidewalk, and then we're kind of left holding the bag.
That's what I thought. I mean, that's why you put up the collateral or a bond or whatever it is in the beginning to make sure that people do the work. If you make sure that they get the work done before we give them the permits and all of the other actions on here, and we inspect it and we accept it and we make sure that everything is okay, then we know that that work is going to get done before that they get all of the other components that they want, this minor subdivision and everything else. If that were to happen and it were tied to those items, you know, does that make transportation more comfortable, or is it still a problem?
Again, transportation, oftentimes, well, we've done some things in the past where we allowed the applicant to, where you can, building permits or any other improvements, you would not be allowed to do so until these improvements are done. So
Right.
there were some things that occurred in the past, but again, our practice now has been getting collateral in the finances that are needed to do it. So it has occurred, but it's good. I guess it's the wish of the board.
I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, I'd be interested to hear what the planning department had to say about that. I mean,
Sure. So I also wanted to point out that as part of the SI, there's the warranty period, the 1-year warranty period that would need to be included. Obviously, if we were to put a condition in here that would limit land use approvals, building permit approvals, et cetera, I know they need a change in use permit for the convenience store. We'd need to have these things in place before we could even consider reviewing those other types of permits.
you need to have the landscaping in place before you give them their other permits, is what you're saying.
We would have to have an approved landscaping plan in place prior. I mean, that would go with those permitting. I was specifically referring to the subdivision improvement agreement if we were going to do something other than.
No,
cash grant.
here's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out what our risk is here, you know, as an organization, because you know, I mean, what we're trying to accomplish here is get the landscaping built. And what I hear them saying is that they're willing to build the landscaping, and that doesn't sound like that's an issue at this point. The risk is that if we were to not do the bond in this particular case, what if they didn't build the landscaping? You know, that's why you have the bond in the first place. I get that piece, but of course, there's no landscaping there right now. I mean, it's and sidewalks there. There's nothing there right now. And so therefore, nothing is going to change if we don't allow them to have any permits if they don't build the landscaping and the sidewalks. And so I'm trying to figure out what the downside to that is to tie those two together, but maybe there's something I'm missing.
Commissioner Hanson, if I could address your question about the possible risk to the county.
Yeah.
I think it was already mentioned that number one is the collateral ensures the public improvement is completed.
I get
Number
that.
two, there's the warranty period for 1 year to make sure that the construction is done appropriately, and if there's any defects, that those are repaired during that 1 year period. That collateral will ensure that if the applicant did not make those fixes, the county could with the collateral. Secondly, the landscaping plan has not been approved. The document that the applicants have shared does not meet current standards. So again, the risk would be that the applicant would not choose to comply with any of those regulations, and instead we would be debating whether through administrative relief or through some board of adjustment hearing for a variance as to what should occur on the property if it's not decided either here or through an agreement.
So what you're suggesting is that if we don't have that bond, ultimately, our hooks that we normally have in terms of granting permits aren't necessarily enough. You know, the risk is the landscaping goes bad a year from now and somebody has to repair it and we have to repair it, or they could just go to the board of adjustment and ask for a variance and you end up with a situation where the landscaping doesn't happen anyway. They could do that now, though, couldn't they?
Yes, they could apply for administrative relief, and if that application is denied, it would go to the Board of
So
Adjustment.
that's a risk that we have right now. So that's not a unique risk for not having the bond, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so set that aside then, because that's not a risk of not having the bond. The issue is really on the warranty side of things.
That's correct. I think practically speaking for the applicant, they do have a motivating factor, which is to complete those improvements in a timely fashion in order to allow the commercial operator that wishes to use the building to do so quickly.
What's the cost of the bond? And that's really a question, I think, for the applicant. And that's my last question.
Probably 10%. No, I mean 1%, I'm sorry.
1% of what?
Whatever it is.
1% of what, though? I don't know what the
I don't
landscaping
know.
and sidewalks
Banks?
cost.
The cost of it would be 1% per cost of the construction.
And how much is that going to be?
I don't know. We don't know exactly what all the county was. There's landscaping now along 70th Avenue.
Something I should have been looking at here that I didn't.
And is that something else?
It seems to me we have a chicken or the egg thing here. We have a strip of land that the county wants, desires, needs, et cetera, that we've dedicated, and they also want it improved, which we're willing to do, but it's in what order does this happen? Do we do that first? If we can have a permit to go do that, we'll go work on that. We'll come
Okay,
back here in 6 months.
I think I understand. I misunderstood. I thought that really this was about the cost, but apparently it's not, because if you don't know what the cost is, it can't be about that. So it's really just about a philosophical discussion about how you think things should be done versus what our regs say. And I guess that, I'm of the opinion that people should follow the regs unless there's a really good reason, and it doesn't sound like there's a really good reason in this case.
Commissioner,
Well, I
any
guess-
other question? Commissioner Odorizio.
You had said that I thought I was confused because I thought you said that the issue you didn't want to do the bond is because of the cost.
Well, we only have so much money, and I have talked to the owners and discussed this with them, and they say they're willing to do all of the above. But to pay extra money waiting for them to spend their money to do all of the above is kind of a step that we probably don't need. Now, I understand that the SIA agreement is maybe for a large subdivision, and it's forcible, and it's usable, and it's factual, and it's probably needed, but one size doesn't fit all in this case. And like I said, I think it's a chicken or the egg thing. We are willing to do all the above, and we will probably, in my mind, do it all together. When I say do it all together, we will construct all the improvements on Pecos around the corner to Lot 3 and the dedicated portion improvements at the same time. Why? Because it's just more cost effective. But we have to know what those are. During the last hearing, met out in the hall with Chris and some others, and I said, look, our intent is to come back to the next hearing and say, this is a moot point, folks. We have this done. It's in place. You can go walk on it. And their comment was, we can't get it done that fast. Okay. Well, we have public sector. We have private sector. So I guess what I'm saying is I think if we have some kind of condition to where we can proceed on doing the engineering, get it approved, get it constructed, get it, on-site approval and accepted by the county, then it's actually a moot point. We can go on and do the rest of it. Now, I don't know what happens first, the rezoning, the subdivision, the dedication, the engineering, or do we do it in reverse order? You know what? It really doesn't make a hoots bit of difference to me.
So I would make a couple comments regarding that. I mean, the regulations clearly set this up. This isn't the first time we've had to deal with this kind of subdivision issue related to SIAs. It's very clear in terms of how that operates. When there's public improvements that need to be done, we handle those with the SIA, and obviously the SIA requires that collateral, et cetera, be submitted. We rely on the applicant to provide that cost estimate. There's an exhibit that goes along with that. I've tried to get these requirements from the applicant for quite some time and have not been able to get those from him. They definitely know what's necessary, and I think that this process is set up to take care of all the concerns that he has described. He just hasn't done it.
May I say, I think we ought to just do this in reverse order. We'll just go engineer the improvements that the county wants. We'll go get a permit to build them on our land because it's not dedicated to you yet, and then you can approve the subdivision. Does that work for everybody?
So my final comment related.
Wait.
Okay.
Commissioner Henry, you have a question.
Yeah, I actually have a comment. First of all, the rules are to be followed for everybody. I was actually elected to level the playing field for everybody. And your business that you're representing actually is part of our community. And to say that what we're requesting is not necessary is totally wrong. Right across the street is an elementary school. You're surrounded by houses. Children are walking to school. They don't have sidewalks. I am a strong believer that development needs to pay their own way. Right now, our citizens are burdened by a stormwater fee because previous commissioners allowed other businesses not to pay for their own way and not pay for the infrastructure that needs to be done. I totally disagree with you. First of all, you don't know what the cost is, so you really can't use the argument that it's going to cost too much. And second of all, you need to follow the rules just like everybody else. We're here to level the playing field for everybody, including the business owners.
And that's fine. We don't have any problem with that, and we said we would pay for all the cost, whatever it is, once we get engineering drawings and have something definitive to get quotes for that cost. But do we do it first, or do we do it last?
Commissioner Pulaski.
Well, it's very frustrating to me, listening to some of the things that you've just said. Staff has been very diligent. We have the emails, all of the dates and times that they've tried to contact and tried to set meetings up and get this thing moving forward, especially since our May 19th meeting. So I very much am very proud of the fact that staff has kind of gone out of its way to try to resolve this. In the next hearing that we have a letter from a Bassett and Associates, Inc. that's putting in 435 lineal feet of sidewalk, 5 foot wide, for $34,983. I'm assuming that this is in a similar amount of lineage that you're talking about. And I know that this is, or maybe it's smaller, whatever, but 1% of that is what's stopping you from moving forward? That just doesn't make sense.
Well, it goes a little bit farther than that, because from day one, they said the county has no intention of improving 70th Avenue once this is approved. And that has stuck with me in my little brain for a long time, and you know what? I just can't get it out of there.
I'm sorry about that, too.
Me too.
I totally agree with you, but I also know that as a newly elected commissioner in a 1,200 square mile county, I never knew that we had area called Goat Hill. And when that Goat Hill was instituted and put in place, whoever did the designing and planning did a lousy job, and now we're left as commissioners to try to improve those areas. And so we don't know what's out there in our future. I'm sorry that that's what's stuck in your mind, that no possible improvements or whatever, but we don't know what's coming next. So that's why we're preparing this step by step. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
may I make a suggestion?
Let's go to the next question. Steve, Commissioner Odoricio?
Two things. Number one, I'd love to hear your suggestion, and then number two, I would not object to another continuance to get these details worked out.
Well, I think that's only, sitting on your side of the fence here, you know, I'd probably be saying the same thing. Why? Because I've done this long enough, I don't need the practice anymore, okay? Sitting on my side of the fence, I have some owners with so much revenue. They have to generate revenue to pay taxes, to basically hire you people, do all this and make rules and whatever. The end result is you all want a sidewalk, I want a sidewalk, they want a sidewalk. We all want safety, we all want it done, we all want to be happy campers. It's how do we get there, it's logistics. So I would suggest that we get permission, if that's what it takes, and a lot of times it takes longer to get permission than to do the work. Believe me, I've known that for a long time. So we'll get permission, we'll go engineer it, which we've already started and contracted for. We will design it, we'll send it over to the Transportation Department for approval, we'll get their approval, we'll go get the cost, we'll build it without anybody's say-so other than the permit, and then we'll come back here whenever, Thanksgiving, and we will say, okay, can we have a subdivision now? It's fine with me. It doesn't matter. You get what you want, we get what we want, what I started a year ago. It just doesn't seem that complicated. I've used this analogy many, many times. We've been to the moon and back 3 times. We can't even solve these Earth problems. It's a little bit frustrating.
Commissioner Hanson?
I'm basically disappointed in you because I was actually had a line of questioning that I was trying to help you earlier to try to figure out if there's a way through this. But, you know, you seem to think that you shouldn't have to do a subdivision improvement agreement. I think your comment earlier is, well, that's just for big subdivisions, you know, not for little ones. And I will tell you that, you know, we've had so many problems in past decades, not in any of these commissioners up here, but we've had so many, because we're all new, relatively new anyway. We've had so many problems with subdivision improvement agreements across the board in the county. You know, loosey-goosey stuff. Oh, we're just not going to have, we don't have to do that in this case. And so someone like you comes up here and says, hey, you know, just let us build it and we'll take care of it. And then they don't. You know, there was kind of a wink and a nod, you know, on things. Or people didn't sign subdivision improvement agreements. It got so bad that a few years ago we had to ask our auditor to look and see, you know, what we had or didn't have on these subdivision improvement agreements. And shocker of all shockers, you know, we found a lot of problems associated with what has happened in past years. And so you might think that it's onerous, but I'm telling you right now that the lack of subdivision improvements agreements has cost the taxpayers of Adams County millions of dollars in lost improvements, millions in dollars in staff time and costs and having trying to figure this out, and probably cost the community some untold millions of dollars in quality of life and property values. And if that's what the regs say, that's what the regs say. So no, I am not interested in your proposal because it's bass-ackwards. We're supposed to do the subdivision improvement agreement first, and that's the way that it should be. And if we need to approve this with that stipulation, I'm okay with that. If we're going to continue that, and if you get the subdivision improvement agreement signed and we do the rest of it, I don't care either way. But the SI needs to be done, and it needs to be done before anything else.
I can agree with everything that you said on one thing, Mr. Hanson. Is it Hanson? My eyesight. They will sign that. We'll agree to that. And would it make a difference if the entire application gets approved after it's all constructed? Would it make a difference?
Yes, it does, because that's not what the regs say. And what's the point of having the SIA in the first place if it's already
I
after
said
it's been
after it's
constructed?
all
And what
constructed.
if you don't construct it according to the way that the SEI is? It's backwards. You do the agreement first, and then you do the improvements. It doesn't make any sense to do it any other way.
You know, this whole thing started because there's R1C and C1 together with a commercial building over the top, which is no fault of anybody in this room. So we're going way back, and I'm just here, again, I think I said it last time, picking up the dirty socks.
As are
So
we,
I'm
sir.
here again to pick them up, and I'm trying to help the county, improve the county, but obviously, again, there's too many rules in the way. Now, I think flexibility here is appropriate, but I do agree with everything you said, and if I was sitting in your chair, I'd probably say the same doggone thing.
Sir, I'd like to make a statement, and that is, I appreciate everything that you've said, and I appreciate your view as to how things should happen. The problem with it is that we've, over the last few decades, allowed no rules, and we've bypassed rules, and we've bypassed everything that we've had in place in certain areas. We've piecemealed different areas within the county and required different standards within the county. Now we're trying to set a standard set of standards that we're trying to follow for everybody. That whole corridor along Pecos, we have improved piece by piece. There are new businesses moving in that are meeting the standards that you here today do not want to meet. How is it fair to require that of all the other people who are moving in and who want to do business in that area, and who, by the way, I pay taxes in Adams County also. I pay the wages for me to sit up here. I pay to have me represent the constituents and represent them fairly within the county. I have just as much of a vested interest in what we're doing here today as everybody else. How is it fair that we don't allow you, or don't take you and hold you accountable like everyone else we have along that corridor? We are trying to do our very best. We are asking you to follow the exact same rules and standards that we have put in place for everybody else. No more, no less. We will work with you on what you need to get done. We will definitely do that. We want to see you succeed. We want to see this business succeed.
Okay,
But we
question.
have certain things we need to have done.
Question. I said my clients will sign the agreement. Now what?
So they're signing the SIA and they're putting up the collateral? Sorry.
I said they'll sign the agreement. Now what?
So are they putting up the collateral? That's my
I don't know.
question.
You can ask them.
Well, then I think we should ask the clients to come and step forward and make a
They can
statement.
tell you how much money they have or don't have.
If you would like to step to the podium, please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Antunes, and I live in 3821 South Exante Street, Denver, Colorado, 80237. And everybody talking about the collateral, and we don't know how much. Nobody knows how much. If it's at 1% of $35,000, like another business, they do the same, it's like $3,000. Or how much?
$350 on $35,000.
Oh, okay. And is that the much? Because
Well,
I asked Chris
And
about
that's
how
based on-
much.
That's based on this. This
I
is
know.
not with your case at all.
But somebody can tell us. I will sign the collateral and give you the check. But how much?
So I have a quick comment related to what she just said.
Yes.
So in terms of the cost, it's up to the applicant to provide those estimates to fill out the Public Improvements Exhibit B. They would coordinate that cost estimate with transportation, who then would agree or disagree with the estimate that they provided. There's built in we talked about different amounts that's over in terms to cover administrative fees, et cetera, inflation. And those are all included in the agreement. And the agreement that we gave them had the highlighted portions that needed to be completed. The next step is for them to give us that information to complete that agreement. And that's what we need. It's not ready to sign today. If we think that that's what they're going to agree to, we would recommend the continuance to July 14th to finalize that. but we'll need that information from them. We're relying on them at this point to complete that, and then we can discuss it from there once we have those estimates from them.
But I remember the last meeting here on May 19, we talked to the transportation department person, and he said, is steps, so we asked him, or the architect asked him, how they wanted to do it, because we don't know. If we hire a person, a constructor guy to make the sidewalks planner, or we need to know how they want it. I mean, we don't know anything. So he said, well, we need to do a steps by steps. Seems a lot of really complications, because we want just to do this minor subdivision and rezoning. And yeah, I mean, we don't know anything, is why we hire Art. And but yeah, we are willing to do, we love our center, we want to improve the city, but yeah.
So another statement to that, that information has been provided to them, the cross-sections of what we would expect to see. So I'm at a loss as to why they don't know. They've definitely received that information, and we've been expecting to see that from them.
You are engineer, correct?
I believe copies were given to you as well as to the applicant, and I know I even tried as late as yesterday to talk to the applicant. She refused to talk to me and wanted to talk about this in the hearing today.
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Dorisio.
After we receive public comment on this, I would be willing to make a motion to continue this until July. Give us a chance for you to execute or sign the subdivision improvement agreement, come back with some real numbers, then you'll know a little bit more. Well, you'll know a lot more about where you stand as far as cost versus benefit. We'll have some information about this conversation moving forward. It gives you time to get that done, then we don't have to worry about the chicken and the egg thing. I do appreciate, sir, your comments about the overall policy issues. But when we're in the weeds on a particular case, we can't really change the policy. But if you have comments about how we're doing with the overall policy, I still would love to have you submit a letter or share that information with our staff as we look forward to changing policy in the future. As far as short term, I'm going to recommend that we continue this till July. Let's get some of these things done, deal with some real hard numbers and some facts, and then we'll be able to support both you and the staff in accomplishing all of our goals. So, but thank you so much for all the work that you're doing.
So at this time, that's not a motion.
It's not a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Hanson.
Could I suggest maybe even August? Because last time, we would like to continue engineering to get to a number, to do whatever we have to do. And obviously, there wasn't enough time from last time to this time. So if we go 2 months, if it's all right with you, then fine, maybe 2 months is enough time to get it all done. Is that all right?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Ma'am,
Yes.
I appreciate you coming up here because actually, it's much illuminating to me. I would say this. All you need to do is take the standards that they gave you from engineering, give it to someone who would do the work, and they would take that and they would give you an estimate of the amount of work in terms of the cost. And then that would give you how much you would need for the bond, which would probably be 1% of that total. So if it was $100,000, it would be $1,000. I don't think it would be that much, but we're talking about a relatively small amount of money. And my guess is you probably paid your attorney more this morning for being here than the cost of that bond would be.
Yeah.
And so what I would suggest is that, you just get that information from our staff, give it to someone who can do the work, and that would solve the problem, and then we can get the SIA signed and then move forward. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, because at the beginning, we get informed was like a $50,000, and where are we going to have that money to make the construction? And then
I'm not sure where that.
Yeah,
well,
I
there's
don't
going to
even
have to be there's obviously money for the construction.
Yes.
You have to do, but we're not talking about an additional $50,000 here. We're probably talking about $1,000 or less would be my guess. But I'm not an engineer, and I so I don't know. But we're not talking about a lot of money here.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, at this time, I'd like to call anyone from the public who would like to make a comment on this matter. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment? Seeing none, I just want to make a short statement, and that is that we're not here to fight with you over progress, over success. We're here because we, along with you, have an interest in Adams County, either doing business, living here, correcting the past practices that we've had. If we're doing that wrong, then we need to know. If there's processes that we are doing that are not conducive of success and doing business in Adams County, we need to know. We've opened up that door. We've said we want to hear that feedback. If anyone has heard anything in this conversation that they feel needs to be addressed, then I invite you to send that comment in.
I also want to add the fact that we definitely do want to hear from people out there about our process, but we want constructive criticism. If you have a solution of the way that could be handled better, or ideas, that's really what we want to hear, I believe, unless the commissioners want to correct me. We don't want to hear about how crappy our staff is. We want to hear how we can make the process better.
Commissioner Pulaski.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to add, as a small business owner, I know we have challenges from time to time, but please do not view the county as the enemy. We are trying to work collaboratively with everyone, and that's what I would just like to put out there to you, is we are not the enemy. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Yes.
Mr.
Chair, I move to continue case PRC 2014-16 until July, what was the date? 14th of 2015, to allow this case to proceed a little bit further in the gathering of facts and the execution of the SIA.
Commissioner Rodericio, if I may, could I ask, the applicant asked if the continuance could be until August?
I'm sorry, you're correct. What is a date in August that would actually work, Chris?
There's several. We could consider the 4th, the 11th, 18th, or 25th.
4th, 11th, 18th, or 25th.
I think the 11th, it makes it about 2 months.
Is the 11th okay with the application by nod? Okay, let's, actually, I move to continue this until the 11th of August. Would that be better?
Second.
Got it, thank you.
Commissioner Odoracio? Yes. Commissioner Pulaski?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson? Commissioner Tedesco?
Yes. Thank you very much. County Manager, could you call the next case, please?
Yes, our second case for your consideration is RCU 2015-6. It's time to change. Again, Cliff LaRue with our planning department will be the case manager on this.
Thank you. This is the time to change case. It's RCU 2015-6. I'm having trouble moving it forward here. Maybe. I'm just going to ask them a quick question. Do you know if your thing is locking it up for moving it forward? There we go. Okay. Now we're... All right. Try that again. Just use this mouse. I can't get it out. Yeah, will it work? Okay, I'm just going to leave it like this, I think. No problem. Okay, I'm just going to try to read it this way if that's okay. So this is the time to change, RCU 2015-6. It's a request for an amendment to a conditional use permit. The original one was in 2002 to allow an increase of 17 beds to an existing 85-bed facility and the construction of approximately 8,000 square foot building addition to an existing 12,750 square foot building to provide 48 additional specialized treatment beds, substance abuse, and dual diagnosis for community corrections. Here's the site and the surrounding zoning. This is 62nd Avenue. Over here to the west is Washington. Here's Downing, Franklin, and then the site in the light blue. This is the Xcel Energy power plant over here to the east. So again, it's located south of East 62nd between Franklin and Downing. It's I-1, it's 1.69 acres. To the northwest and south, it's I-2. The area to the west is I-3, and the area as a whole is utilized for warehousing, distribution, storage purposes. And again, the Cherokee power plant's located directly east of the facility. Comprehensive plan designates the site and surrounding area as industrial. Per the county's comprehensive plan, the goal of industrial land designations provide for opportunities for a full range of industrial employment activities, increase employment, contribute to the tax base. The future land use, when the site was originally permitted, was also designated as industrial. Presently, halfway house uses are only permitted through a conditional use permit within the county's C5, I1, I2, I3, A3, and PL public land zone districts. Those zones would provide the least impact to more sensitive residential commercial zones, and the use is prohibited in all other zone categories. And the proposal to expand the facility would be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Services provided on the subject property are for adult felony offenders sentenced by the court. Adams County Community Corrections Board must approve and screen each resident for appropriateness before they are allowed to live in the facility. Clients are provided housing and treatment programs to help them control harmful habits. They're required to have employment. So the site's used as a residential reentry facility where residents are on probation because a judge did not determine their crime was serious enough to warrant incarceration, sometimes called diversion. Also, facility residents could be previously incarcerated individuals, that's transition, who after a screening process have been determined by the Community Corrections Board to have exhibited positive performance and progress to be released in a halfway house environment. The average length of stay is around 6 months. A large portion of these offenses typically housed in this type of environment relate to substance abuse and related crimes like forgery or theft associated with drug use. The applicant stated no sex offenders would reside or be accepted at the facility. Prior to a resident being approved, the prospective resident would need approval from Community Corrections Board, Screening Committee, and the provider. If sufficient beds aren't available in a halfway house, offenders are generally released under parole from jail directly into the community without any training, structure, or job skills that could maybe help them successfully reenter into society. As a residential facility, it'd have operations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Upon entering the facility, residents undergo a comprehensive, individualized assessment of educational and other services that they might need. It considers their background, where they've steered wrong, where to focus treatment based on individual needs. They have structured programming with focus on substance abuse treatment, education, changing the criminal thinking. Other services could include group counseling, life skills, aftercare. Clients at the facility, they undergo regular urine tests, breathalyzer tests, pat-downs, room searches. It's monitored 24/7 via video surveillance, both inside and along the perimeter. There are at least 2 security staff on duty at all times. They regularly monitor the facility, maintain safety and security. Staff conducts the head counts of clients' facility and community whereabouts on a regular basis. And they maintain a 1-to-5 client ratio. The applicant states they will continue their neighborhood advisory board, which includes participation from a variety of stakeholders. That sounds like that's been successful. That board would meet periodically or upon request if they need to review any issues or concerns. Department of Correction requirements do not require a specific client-to-staff ratio for halfway house operators, but they do state residential programs have to provide an acceptable staffing pattern for safety and supervision. But at a minimum, programs with residential population of 50 more are required to be covered by at least 2 security staff members at all times. So the first component of the request is for an increase in capacity in the existing facility, and specifically they would add 17 more beds to that existing facility. There wouldn't be any changes to the physical building itself. Now, the second request involves building the addition, or an additional wing that would house 48 additional beds. That'd be on the eastern section of the existing building. They'd be used to provide specialized treatment for adult clients with substance abuse and dual diagnosis treatment needs. It'll function as an inpatient community corrections program. Clientele will be similar to those in the current facility, but they might have special needs like a substance use or mental health diagnosis at the same time that they would require treatment for. Outreach, the applicant had a neighborhood meeting in January at the existing facility. They offered a tour, information about their clientele, programming, et cetera, and the applicant had reported that only 1 neighbor attended that meeting. We'd received 1 anonymous response concerning this case, a letter. The letter writer had indicated they talked to a number of people in the area that are in opposition, but again, we only received the 1 letter. Noted concerns included property values, safety to area residents and businesses, and a general fear of the residents at the facility. So the facility would be subject to regulatory oversight and inspection procedures from the state of Colorado contained within the document entitled Colorado Community Correction Standards. There's a copy that's in your packets. But basically, the state requires applicant to provide for certain requirements to include details on the following, like administration, personnel, management controls, security, the facilities themselves, case management requirements, and they're required to meet those minimum requirements for the safe operation of the facility. Colorado Division of Criminal Justice has the obligation to audit all adult community corrections programs. And since this facility is regulated under purview of the state of Colorado, it's operated under a more stringent regulatory control than many other types of conditional use permits in the county. They've also got the Adams County conditional use permit with conditions on it that can attempt to try to make the use more compatible. And should the applicant not live up to their end of the bargain with respect to those conditions, show cause proceedings could occur where the permit could ultimately be revoked if there were ever an issue. The applicants have provided all the technical justifications why the facility would be considered safe for operations. There's other considerations. A new landscaping plan would be required to show compliance with all the current requirements. That includes 10% of the site, providing landscape buffers on the property lines, providing proper numbers of trees and shrubs. They can include all their existing landscaping that they currently have there to meet this requirement. Also, there's no curb, gutter, sidewalk located on the south side of East 62nd Avenue between Franklin Street and Washington. There is curb, gutter, and sidewalk on the north side of East 62nd. We've included a condition precedent stating the applicant should be required to submit plans for the design, installation of the curb, gutter, and sidewalk along their property frontage. I'd handed down a letter to all of you regarding an estimate the applicant provided for that cost. There's also a condition stating the applicant shall install a crosswalk if it's approved by Transportation Department from their facility north to the sidewalk on the other side of the street to improve the safety for residents. The Planning Commission considered this case on May 28th. They recommended approval. It was a 4-2 vote. The dissenting votes were Commissioners Molinaro and Mosco. The applicant testified the new addition would meet a 1-to-4 client ratio. The applicant expressed concerns with the staff recommended expiration date, stated they were concerned with the ability to finance the project if there's a time limit on the CUP. The applicant also requested the requirement for curb, gutter, and sidewalk be removed. The reason for this request was the infrastructure, they say, would not be utilized, and it could be cost prohibitive to their overall project. The Planning Commission also wanted to see floor plans of the facility, and we have received those. Those are included in your packets. I've also scanned them in to share today. Here's the overall aerial of the site. It's in the light blue. Again, Washington, 62nd. There's the site. You can clearly see the power plant here. There's a closer view, and then an extreme close-up. This is the applicant's site plan that shows the new addition that they're proposing. They provided this slide that would show architecturally how the facility would look. So this is the new wing. The next plan shows the site plan for the existing facility. Shows the beds, etc. This shows the site plan for the first floor of the new wing. This is where it connects to the existing building, and this would extend to the east. You can see that they have beds that are bedrooms listed. I believe they've got 4 per room. Shows meeting rooms, etc. This is the top floor of that wing that shows offices, open area, stairwells, and break room meeting areas. These are pictures of the area. I apologize, they're a little dark, but this is looking east on 62nd. This is the property frontage. That's looking west on 62nd. Here's the sidewalk on the north side. You'd note that the lack of it down here on the south. That's northwest along 62nd Avenue. It's across the street there. That's the site facing south from 62nd, looking into the entrance for the facility. This is their frontage. You can see there is some existing landscape. There's the building there. There's facing southeast, their sign, the building. That's the property frontage again. Again, the existing building is located here behind these trees. This is a view facing southwest from 62nd Avenue. This is looking at the frontage. Here's the existing building. The new wing would be constructed in this area. This is the site facing north, standing into the property, looking towards 62nd. This is the existing facility. Shows the entrance. There's another view of it here. Shows their parking area. So the Planning Commission and staff are recommending approval with 8 findings. There were 4 conditions, precedent 12 conditions, and 2 notes. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, do we have questions for staff? No questions for staff. At this time, would the applicant like to step to the podium and make a comment? If so, please state your name and address for the record.
We want to make sure the slideshow is working first. Ready? Good morning. My name is Dino Martinez. I'm the Program Director and Vice President of Time to Change Community Corrections, 1450 East 62nd Avenue, Denver, Colorado. First of all, good morning. We want to actually thank the staff, Chris and the rest of the staff, for all their hard work in getting us to this point this morning. We also want to thank you for the opportunity, and it's an honor and a privilege to come before you to talk on behalf of Time to Change.
Would we need a continuance for technological? Sure.
Only if you have sidewalk issues.
This will be a two-part presentation. I will be covering the first request, and Alex Walker will be covering the second request. We want to talk to you a little bit about community corrections this morning. First, let's review. What is community corrections? Community corrections is a sentencing alternative between probation and prison. Community correction has the unique ability to closely monitor clients 24/7. We have the ability to catch more, both positive and negative behaviors, recognizing positive behaviors and holding clients accountable for negative behaviors. We have the ability to provide a higher level of structure, supervision, and accountability. We can provide more intensive and effective treatment. We primarily have 2 types of clients. First, diversion clients. These are individuals who are being diverted from prison and serving their sentence in community corrections. Keep in mind that this population committed an offense in Adams County, was sentenced by a judge in Adams or Broomfield, to include any Adams County probation violators. And note that all diversion clients must be screened by the Adams County Community Corrections Board. Secondly, transition clients. These are individuals who are making a transition to community corrections after serving a portion of their sentence in the Department of Corrections. Now, this population consists of clients that committed an offense in Adams County or plan to parole to Adams County, Adams County parole violators, and again, all transition clients must be screened by the Adams County Community Corrections Board before they are placed in community corrections. The research is clear. Transition clients transitioning through community corrections are more likely to be successful than not doing so. Why is that? Because they have the ability to develop some skills while in community corrections. They get the structure and the treatment before they go on parole. So let's talk about a little history about Time to Change. Time to Change is locally owned and operated by Dr. Evan Chris. Time to Change began in the Adams County Detention Facility back in May of 2000. As some of you may remember, there was a backlog in the Adams County Detention Facility of diversion clients awaiting bed space for another community corrections program here in Adams County. Rightfully so, the Adams County Community Corrections Board, along with other county agencies, enacted a plan to address this issue. Time to Change responded in partnership with the county to provide services acting as a transitional type program for clients that was already in community corrections. After spending approximately 35 months in a jail, we opened the Time to Change Adams facility back in April of 2003. 5 years later, in May of 2008, we opened our Time to Change Commerce City location. So Time to Change Adams has been around for about 12 years, and our Commerce City location for 7. Now I would like to take a moment to introduce our leadership team. You may see some of them sitting in the room here, and I guarantee they look better on this picture than in person. But first, Adams' leadership team, Cynthia McGee, who is our program coordinator, Millie Odom, who is our administrative and financial coordinator, Victoria Lundstrom, security supervisor, Mike Asher, case manager supervisor, and Alex Walker, who was at the man in the clicker this morning. Secondly, we have at the Commerce City location, Michael Gardner, who is the program coordinator, Rachel Bullock, case manager supervisor, Jennifer Kaufman, evidence-based practice coordinator, Chris Dugan, security supervisor, myself, and Dr. Evan Christ. We have assembled a great management team with diverse backgrounds and with over 160 years of community corrections experience. Now, this is a neat slide here. People often ask, what does a typical day look like for a Time to Change client? Well, this illustration is based on structure and accountability. So it looks busy because it was intended to look that way. Getting clients in the routine is some of the best practices in terms of occupying at least 40 to 70% of their time. So if you look at this, the right-hand side would be the AM and the left-hand side would be the PM. So you see the gentleman up top, he's getting out of bed, he's very happy this morning. They have to make their beds and clean their rooms when they get up. I'm not sure how many people did that this morning. They also may have an AM facility chore that may consist of cleaning the bathrooms, showers, or kitchen. All of our clients must maintain full-time employment if they are physically or mentally able to do so. Other question that people may ask, well, when they leave the facility, how do we monitor them in the community? Well, here's how we do it. Each client is given travel time. So if it takes them 2 hours to get to work, then we give them 2 hours to get to work. Clients must call when they get to work. We may also do a random whereabouts verification at some point during the day to verify that the client is at work. At the end of the workday, clients call and notify staff that, hey, I'm on my way back to the facility. And again, they're given that same amount of travel time. Now we move into the evening. Once they return back to the facility, they may receive a random urinalysis test because we do drug testing. They may receive a PAT search, a breathalyzer test, and/or a locker search. Now, if you look to the left-hand side, the brackets there, our clients are involved in many different types of activities during the evening. They may be visiting with their families because we allow families to visit at the facility. They may be involved in a community support activity, so going to the gym, bowling, or church. They may be visiting with their families out in the community or friends or out to dinner. They may be involved in educational programming, employment skills, GED, attending college and/or vocational training. Clients must meet with their case managers at least once a week. And also, case managers meet with their community support people. Someone that's positive, that's a positive influence in their life that can help support them while they are in the program. That's what the research tells us. Clients attend treatment at least once a week. It may be substance abuse, criminal culture, cognitive therapy, or some other types of treatment. Now we're moving up to bedtime. You see the guy in bed, he's looking forward to getting in bed as well. At some point during the day, we would have done at least 12 head counts to verify that clients are in the facility. They may also, they're going to have some type of PM facility chore. Having 85 men in the facility, you can imagine you need to keep it clean. We also have an in-house curfew and an in-room curfew, where we call lights out, for an example. So this is what a typical day looks like. And by the way, this is a trade secret. This cannot leave this room. So client financial and economic impact over the last 5 years. And again, this is from both programs, these numbers. We teach our clients budgeting skills. That's a real key. and clients are required to develop a monthly budget plan with their case managers. So out of these budget plans, clients are required to pay court order restitution. So as you can see, we paid over $1 million in restitution over the last 5 years between both programs. They have to pay court order child support. They paid over $221,000 in child support, over $252,000 in state taxes, over $500,000 in federal taxes, and also contribute to the local economy because they do their shopping and do their business in Adams County. Other financial obligations, they pay rent. They pay their own treatment costs. They have the ability to send money home to their families. They get personal money to spend at their leisure, and they're required to save at least $1,500 before they can be transferred to our non-residential program or go out on parole. Getting involved in the community. This is very important, and this is something that we take pride in, and make sure that our clients know they need to get back to the community. So here's some of the things that we've done. We've adopted local bus stops. We put together a neighborhood advisory board. We conduct regular trash pickups in the surrounding area. We volunteer for local events with our client, with the workforce that we have. We sponsor the Back on Track Scholarship with the Mapleton School District. This is special to us. This is a student that we select that has dealt with some type of adversity and now on the road to graduation. We also involved ourselves with the Vantage Point High School criminal law class, whereas we take clients out to talk to the students. Ironically enough, we've had some clients in our program who has graduated from that school. The key is we want to be an asset to the community opposed to being a burden on the community, and teach our clients that they need to make sure that they give back to the community. Partnering with the community. Community corrections is more than where clients are supervised. It's where they come to get their lives back on track, be responsible individuals, and held accountable. For some of these guys, this may be their last opportunity to get it right. It's more important for us to meet the needs of the community by returning clients back. Again, returning clients back to the community as pro-social individuals, better fathers, sons, employees, and yes, our neighbors. Adams County is our partner, and we must continue to work hard to maintain their trust. We understand that community corrections may cause some people some concerns, and it's our responsibility to change that perception and do a good job in the community. Adams County growth. As Adams County has grown and increased in size, so has the need for services. In doing so, the Adams County community has identified a need for more community corrections beds. So here's where we can provide some assistance. Time to Change can expand our existing capacity by 17 beds with little interior facility modifications. Our mission is to make the community safer. You see, the now is by using our behavioral monitoring and accountability techniques that I talked about earlier, focusing on security, structure, and compliance. The later is effective treatment and recidivism reduction, focusing on assessing risk and needs, behavior modification, personalized case planning, and community support. Lastly, we want to make Adams County proud by providing great services and running quality community corrections programs. It brings me to our request. We respectfully request that you continue to support our mission in changing lives. So another thing that people often have asked me about over the years is, why do I do this? So I want to share with you why I do this. Hope in the belief that people can change, and to provide a positive environment and opportunity for clients to change. It's real key about the opportunity. At the end of the day, I can say, or we can say, we've done our job. If they choose to take this opportunity, then we applaud them and we congratulate them. If they do not choose to take the opportunity, then we can say, you know, we did our job. We provided you with this opportunity and environment to make the necessary changes that you need to make. And lastly, we ask you to support us in expanding our mission by increasing our current capacity by 17 beds. Thank you for your time. That concludes my portion. I will now turn it over to Alex Walker.
Thank you, Dino. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time today. Dino mentioned that Adams County has grown, and also Adams County has identified having some unique needs. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. What I'd like to talk to you about first is the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, who conducted a gap analysis for the 17th Judicial District and looked at the difference between what the residents of Adams County need versus what's available in the community. And they had some really interesting findings. First and foremost, they found that 15 to 20% of law enforcement calls were involving an individual with behavioral health concerns. They also found that over 25%, over a quarter of the jail population, has been diagnosed with a serious mental illness. And when you look at simply behavioral health concerns, now you're looking at almost 2/3 of the jail population here in Adams County. When you think about the community corrections population, probation, and parole, they identified that 15 to 20% of these individuals in Adams County have a need for intensive residential services. That amounts to between 1,485 and 1,980 individuals currently in Adams County. Finally, the research is pretty clear and shows us that when folks aren't matched to the appropriate treatment, they end up returning to our system. And what the CJCC reported was that 70% of individuals who didn't receive the right treatment ended up coming back to our system within 3 years. What does that mean for time to change? Well, one of the most important things for us is when clients come to our program, we conduct comprehensive assessments of their risk, their criminogenic need, their mental health needs, and their substance use needs. We've also identified that about 15 to 20% of our population has a need for enhanced services to include intensive residential treatment. Unfortunately, that service is not available in Adams County for our clients. So that means one of two things. On the one hand, we can try to piecemeal together treatment for our clients, do the best that we can, provide them structure and treatment and accountability, and hope that they do as well as we hope they can, understanding that they may not be as successful as they could have been. Or we send them out of county to receive the services that they need. This is why we're here today to request a 48-bed facility to be provided in Adams County for Adams County clients to meet this particular need. I'd like to show you a little bit about what we hope it to look like. We're hoping for it. Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. I appreciate that. Last time, nobody laughed, and I thought, this is supposed to be very funny. Unfortunately, we don't have the means to build an opera house, although we would love to.
It would be nice, though.
It would be nice. Wouldn't that be a great addition? Maybe we'll come back. It does need a sidewalk.
As long as it has sidewalks.
Or a kayak. So I'll get to what the building looks like in just a moment. But what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about is what these residential services will provide. Our residential substance use and mental health treatment program is designed for individuals who have an inability to function outside of the structure and treatment that's provided in such a program. It's designed as a 2 to 5 month program for 48 individuals at a given time. We will have a ratio of 1 staff member for every 4 clients at a minimum, and we will be running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. One of the most important things for us, in addition to providing a service in Adams County for Adams County clients, is to integrate evidence-based practices into everything we do. Dino mentioned our leadership team. We have dedicated staff for evidence-based practices and hope to be able to integrate that into our model. And this includes, at a minimum, comprehensive assessment of all of our clients, individualized treatment, community engagement activities with staff, comprehensive family services to include treatment, education, and support services, not only in the program, but after clients leave, as well as effective step-down and discharge services to include referrals after folks leave our program, as well as connecting them with the community and all the things that they'll need to be successful after they leave. Because Dino had a trade secret, I needed one too. So I would also like to show you what a typical day of a specialized treatment program client might look like. It looks a little bit different than the day of a residential client just because they won't be leaving the facility. So when they get up in the morning and after they engage in some house cleaning and cleaning their rooms, they'll start with treatment right away. And the mixture that we have is a mixture of treatment, physical activity, and then psychoeducational programming to help individuals build their skills and put those skills into practice. That will happen throughout the day, 7 days a week. And then we will also be able to provide clients with a little bit of personal time so they can get some of their homework done and do some of their own personal stuff that they need to work on. In the evenings, clients will be attending either individual sessions with their therapists once a week or every other week, individual sessions with their case managers once a week or every other week. There'll also be opportunities for families to come and participate in educational programming, treatment programming, and support services. And we'll also have some physical activity opportunities for our clients scattered throughout the week. You'll notice in the middle there, we'll be monitoring clients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they'll be with staff. This is actually what the building may look like. Chris kind of stole my thunder when he showed it earlier. But you'll notice that we have 10,000 square feet on the bottom floor with 3,000 square feet up top, and enough room for 48 clients with lots of open floor plans and space for people to be able to have some quiet time. So our request before you today is to have the opportunity to diversify our offerings in Adams County by opening a residential intensive substance abuse and mental health treatment program for 48 individuals here in Adams County. Thank you so much for your time, and if you have any questions for us, we're excited to answer those.
Commissioners, do we have any questions? Commissioner O'Dorisio.
I have a couple questions. Would you prefer that I ask one at a time and then give other people a chance?
That would probably work best.
I'll do that. Okay. The first question I have, you guys had approached the Board of County Commissioners roughly 10 years ago to try to expand the facility, and it was denied, correct?
Correct.
Part of my analysis of this is part of the reason you guys succeed so well in getting a good reputation in the community is because of your personal service. How does increasing the density, how are you going to prevent the increasing of density from negatively impacting your personal service to your clients?
That's a fair question. My name is Evan Christ, 1450 East 62nd Avenue, Denver, Colorado. Both with physical and operational separation of the two buildings, we'll have dedicated staff with the current building and with the specialized treatment beds. And we think with the specific focus that each will have, we'll be able to meet the unique needs of Adams County without watering down the focus that we have.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple others, but if you want to give others a chance.
Does anyone else have a question? I have a question for you. The clientele and how you get funded for that clientele, could you give me a breakdown on how that happens? Who do you receive the payment from? And is there funding for these future beds that you're telling us that we need in Adams County? And where are the evidence that shows we need these extra beds in Adams County?
Okay. The contract that we have is directly with the Board of County Commissioners, and the Board of the Adams County contracts with the state. So the state pays the per diem to the county, and then the county passes it through to us. So that's how the payment works currently on all of our clients. With some of the specialized beds, it's possible that we may have a special contract with probation or something like that. But at this point, everything that we've done has come through the Division of Criminal Justice through the state, and I don't anticipate much of that changing. In terms of the need, I believe that there are some folks behind me that can speak directly to the CJCC gap analysis that they did that demonstrated that we probably need a couple thousand specialized treatment beds in Adams County between substance abuse and dual diagnosis. And so the 48 that we're hoping to provide is really scratching the surface.
And you said there's somebody back there that could present that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we may have that person step up. Because I think it's important that we identify that this is an issue and that there are things that we need to mitigate.
Good morning, Board of County Commissioners. My name is Debbie Allen. I am the Criminal Justice Planner for the county. I'd just like to point you to the gap analysis that I believe is actually in your packet, and so the need is actually demonstrated in that assessment. It's a 2-page report. I don't know what page it's on. And so someone will have to show it to me. But what we did is we looked at, first of all, to get to the number I'm going to give you, let me back up how we got to that. So first of all, what we did is we did an analysis on how many offenders are currently supervised within the county, and we estimate that 9,900 offenders are supervised either through probation, community corrections, or parole. And those individuals make up what Time to Change serves. So then we looked at, I'm nervous, I don't know why. So then we looked at the national trends. We went to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, and we wanted to get an estimate of those clients that do need, we talk about the matching up of sentencing to the specialized treatment, what percentage of the overall offender population would assess to what they are offering to provide. And at the national level, we know that the national trend is between 15 to 20% of your overall offender population would assess to the type of treatment services that Time to Change is proposing to offer. So with that, my mathematicians here, I believe we said that the estimated need within Adams County is actually about, what was it? 1485, I knew that, right? 1485 to about 1900. That's the actual need that we estimate, that we believe offenders would be assessing to the type of treatment. Obviously, there's only going to be 48 beds, so not everybody will get into it, but that's the need. And that's how we came up with that.
Before you
number.
leave, I just have one further
Yes.
question to kind of cap that off. And what is our capacity in Adams County right now?
Capacity in which
As far as beds, you say our need is 1485, but what is our capacity within Adams
right
County?
now, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Right now, we have no beds. There are no beds within Adams County that are designated to provide this type of treatment services for the justice
dual.
population. That's exactly right.
Okay.
There is
Thank
none.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Commissioner Odoricio.
This question is for the applicant.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I do want to make a statement that I am a member of the CJCC, and as stated in the letter, I was not a participant in the decision for the CJCC to comment on this case, nor was I present at any of those meetings. So I just want that to be on the record. You have 2 requests that were kind of towards, and you kind of sat here during one of the public hearings right before this. One of your requests is regarding time expiration. The other one is curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Do you still wish to keep both of those requests on the table?
Heck no. Actually, I'd like to address it. Actually, I'd like Debbie to come talk about the sidewalk. I will refer to it as a long strand of concrete. Sidewalk just doesn't seem to be a very popular term today. I will express my concern about it and see if we can come to some sort of compromise that everybody's happy with. If you look at the slide that Chris has up right now, the blue rectangle, the northwest corner is where our driveway is. So all of our clients and the rest of the property is completely fenced. So all of our clients exit the northwest corner and head down Washington in order to get to the bus stop. I've never seen anybody turn right, which would be east. But if you look at slide 3 again, Chris, you can see slide 3. If what the planning department is requesting that we do is, starting in the northwest corner, build 400 feet of sidewalk, which would lead directly to the power plant. I appreciate the value of the sidewalk infrastructure in the county. I don't know that this provides value to anyone, but if the county decides that they want to do that, I'm not going to have a very long discussion about it. What I would What I would like to address is you have the estimate for the sidewalk, which is approximately $35,000, with a couple assumptions built in that may or may not happen. So we can figure maybe a 10 to 20% premium on top of that. So if we're looking at $35,000 to $40,000, I'd like to assume that I'm going to lose that argument and talk about the expiration date. We currently don't have an expiration date on the zoning, which was very helpful when we went to get this financed. And I appreciate the value of that for the county. And I'd like to point out that with the conditional use permit, there's currently a system by which, if we're not living up to our end of the bargain, there can be a for-cause hearing and shut us down. The downside to us for an expiration date is that interest rates from any loan are based on the perceived risk by the bank. And halfway houses are perceived as fairly risky anyway, particularly given the fact it's a conditional use permit rather than a use by right. It makes it more risky. If there's an expiration date on it, it's perceived as even more risky. So with the $40,000 that I'm going to spend on the long strand of concrete, it would be helpful in order to decrease the interest rate that's likely to occur with the bank loan on this, if we could not have the expiration date, because I think that would probably not significantly increase the interest rate, but certainly to the tune of 0.1% or something like that, which would be enough to deal with the sidewalk.
And regarding that expiration date, is it true that this whole application is transferable? If you decide to sell this business, someone else could pick this up and be working and take over at any time?
Yes.
Okay. The next thing would just be a general comment that on conditional use permits, particularly in uses that are potentially risky like these, I always support an expiration date. Usually it's 7 years. But I think that throughout the course of time, you also look at, I'm not aware of any sort of issues or concerns with how you've run your business in this neighborhood. So I would have no objection to keeping the 10 years on. I know it creates additional burden, but as a matter of course, what happens if, Dino and Evan decide to sell this thing and take off to the, to the Bahamas, or, something else happens, Jamaica, what happens? And in uses like this, I'm going to let you know my position will be to keep the time expiration on. So,
Commissioner Pulaski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since this program has been in existence for 15 years, do you have figures that show recidivism versus success cases during that 15-year period?
We don't have access to the database in order to run long-term recidivism stats. I can tell you that if you look at the people that successfully graduate our program, any given year it's between 48% and 68%. Of late, it's been a little bit lower than it has in the past, just with the financial recession and a per diem decrease, which led us to cut some of our resources and so forth. That's slowly but surely crawling back up. So we always shoot for, we think we've done a good job. The highest we've had is about 69%. I always think that 60% is doing a really good job. And the last 2 or 3 years, we haven't been quite there, but that's still our goal.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a question. I'm going to go back to what I asked before, because I don't believe that I kind of understood the answer that you gave me, and that is that these specialized beds, these dual beds, there's funding for those from the state?
I do not currently have a contract. The state does offer such funding, and it's often kind of a chicken and the egg thing in that you have to have a program to apply for a contract, rather than get the contract and then build the program. So
then my next question on that is if there isn't funding for those, because you say you have to apply for those, then what would those beds be used for?
if the demand's there, I guess it would be used for similar
To
community
what you're doing
corrections.
right now, so it wouldn't be the dual process, the dual.
Well, in the event that we can't find 48 people that need the beds in this judicial district,
No,
yes.
I'm not talking about whether or not you can have those people there
To
or
fund
want to
it.
treat those. I'm talking about if you don't have the funding from the state, so they're not going to pay for the dual diagnosis, right?
Right.
What would the beds be used for? I'm sure that you have other areas that would need, you could backfill with, and what would those be?
It would either be regular community correction beds or the exact same type of treatment beds with a different financial support source.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one other condition that I'd like to address, if possible. Currently, one of the conditions that the planning department has requested, our clients generally don't drive. In 15 years, I think we've had one client that we allowed to drive. And the planning department, with that information, has stated that our clients will not be allowed to drive. That's been our operational policy. I'd like to have the flexibility in cases where we do have somebody that for work needs to be able to have a vehicle. I'd like to be able to have that flexibility.
So if they don't drive, they walk?
They walk, ride bus.
And they walk on what, the street? Sorry, just needed to go down that road one more time.
That was fair, but the bus stop is to the west and not to the east.
Okay. Can you do me a favor? Can staff bring up the pictures, the photographs of the existing facility?
If you look at, Chris, if you look at slide 37, right there. Our property ends, see that red pole?
Yes.
Our property ends right there. And everybody turns left here and walks exactly where that gentleman is. Where the sidewalk is being suggested that we install is from the bottom of this screen all the way to the Cherokee Power Plant. And we don't own anything to the west of this, so there's nothing that we can do there. I am in favor of the crosswalk. I think that's needed.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? No other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call if there's anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment on this. Yes, ma'am. Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning. I hope it's still morning. Linda Angel, Community Corrections Administrator for Adams County. And I'm here on behalf of the Adams County Community Corrections Board to support this request for Time to Change's expansion. The board, Community Corrections Board, identified a long time ago this lack of services. And I do want to reiterate there is definitely an established need. From our last fiscal year, out of all of the diversion folks referred from the courts, and that was 553 people, there were 136 who were assessed to need this residential treatment. And that's about 20% of those folks. And this is a validated assessment tool. So we definitely know that there is a need. The second thing I'd like to say is that Time to Change has been providing quality community corrections services and has been a valued partner for community corrections. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. We did have several members of the Community Corrections Board here. I think one had to leave, but there are several here as well.
Any questions? I want to say thank you to the Community Corrections Board, and I think everyone has been aware of how much need there is here. The point I was trying to make is that there is a lot more need than what we're just addressing here today, and we need to be aware of that. And I don't think it can be just one facility at the end of the day that can handle that need. I think that we have to really figure out where we're going to go as a county and how we're going to address that need. So thank you.
Thank you for
And
those
thank you,
comments.
CJCC, for all your work.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes, ma'am. Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is Margaret Summers, and I live at 5900 East 50th Avenue in Commerce City, Colorado. I've lived in Commerce City for 28 years. I'm a retired educator. I started out my first job as a substitute teacher in District 14 and ended up retiring from District 12. I'm also a citizen member who lives very close to a halfway house, which is time to change. And I'm a member of NAMI, the National Association of Mental Illness. And I'd like to address the issues raised by the anonymous letter. As a person who has firsthand experience of living right next to a halfway house. First of all, one of the issues was public safety. And I can say from my own experience that our public safety has actually increased because we have people who are educated, intelligent, security-minded, and their first priority has been public safety. And they made that very clear from their very first community meeting that they had before they opened the facility in Commerce City. I attended that meeting, and I have to tell you, I was very frightened of living next to a halfway house. But after hearing the program and being an educator, I understand the importance of educating people so that they're productive citizens, because they're going to be living right next to me anyway. And would I rather have them living next to me in a program that's prioritized and secure, and they're being educated, and they're becoming productive citizens, or would I just rather have the jails open their doors and say, okay, here's these men and women who have criminal thinking and might break into your home at any moment and hurt you and your family, and I decided early on I'd rather have them educated. The second issue was the general fare of the residents, and I have had a lot of not a lot, but I have had communication with the residents of that facility. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, they all have a chip on their shoulder, probably because they're frightened, probably because they're angry, probably because life hasn't worked out for them up to date. But by the end of the discussion, they are respectful, they're polite, they might still be frightened and have a chip on their shoulder, and I know they're felons. However, they all tell me that they made bad decisions. So I know that the progress in their thinking skills is increasing because they're not blaming their circumstances for what happened now. They take responsibility for what they did. The other issues are they do have to pay rent, they do perform community service projects, they do get jobs, and they have a financial contribution not just to the community, but to their immediate families with child support, helping pay rent, et cetera. So all these issues that were raised, I sincerely do understand the objections because I shared the same fears, but it has turned out to be a bonus for me and a bonus for the community, and I think a bonus for Adams County at large. So I totally support the additional beds, and I really support the mental health program. As a person who's had first-hand experience with people who suffer mental illness, I hope that you take this respectfully and vote in favor of it. And thank you so much for your time.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to make public comment at this time? Yes, sir. Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Justin Robinson, 1450 East 62nd Avenue. I'm a client over there at the Halfway House. I've had problems in the past, been getting out on probation, no structure, nothing like that. And the first thing I went to is robbing and stealing stuff, trying to survive and get my drugs and things like that, And came here to the Halfway House, and I discovered that I get the structure to, get a job, get myself ready to be out there. I get money saved up, everything. I'll be able to get out there and I'll be able to make it instead of just sending me out there, right out of jail, nothing but the clothes on my back and going walking down the street and, trying to survive out there in the cold weather, winter, whatever have it, So I believe that the Halfway House is, a good thing, and they probably do need more beds to let people have the same opportunity as I have.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments.
Yep.
Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment at this time? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jesse Sigler at 1450 East 62nd Avenue. It's the time to change in Denver. I've been there for a year and a month now, 13 months, and it's a really good program. I've seen a lot of people come and go, and I've seen a lot of people come and then leave totally different, you know. I've been on parole for 7 months now. I'm on a COP bed, and if it wasn't for them, I don't know how my transition would be into the community, you know. Like, I was having transition problems now, but they're working on helping me get out now, you know, with the whole transition thing. But it's really good. And I don't know where I would be, really, because I don't have no family here, you know. So it's really good.
Well, I'm glad you're succeeding.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
appreciate your comments.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, sir. I'll ask again, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to make public comment at this time? Seeing none. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner O'Dorisio.
With a very brief statement ahead of time, based on all the criteria that we have in front of us, I'm going to support and I'm going to recommend that we approve this. But I've been involved in the criminal justice system for some time now before this role, and I was also involved even before this current role as county commissioner in dealing with neighborhood issues. At least one incident dealing with halfway houses. I've seen it from different contexts. What we have here is, the way I look at it, is that we've got an applicant who's been working since 2002, and to this date, we have no known major issues that I can see. And in fact, the one letter that we have is talking more about concepts instead of examples of actual conduct that have caused concern in the neighborhood. In fact, we also have today somebody who testified that they live by a halfway house in a different community, but also run by the same operator. So, and it's clear that this operator has a good reputation, but we also know that not all operators are equal in their performance. And so I'm going to recommend that we keep in the time constraint, not because of any concern about this operator, who I think in 13 years has shown some success, but also because we just don't know what we'll have in the future, and I'd like to make sure that we have neighborhoods be able to come back to the table, and if there is something to address in the future, that these moments for renewals are those times to do so. I also think it's important that in this case I'm going to support it because based on our experiences, it's difficult to zone these facilities. Neighborhoods don't want them, and schools and daycare centers, and I think it's better to expand an existing facility that has not had negative problems, that in fact has a good reputation, rather than introduce into new neighborhoods or reintroduce, which has been a concern that I had in the past. So at this time, I'm going to recommend approval of RCU 2015-6 with 8 findings of fact, 4 conditions precedent, 12 conditions, and 2 notes.
Do we have a second?
I'd like to second that. And I just want to say that I'm very proud of the history and the successes that this group has put forth for the county. And I know these things are not, the majority of our society doesn't live this way, and there are always negative factors out there. But the 2 gentlemen who testified today, you truly can be different and you can make changes, and I'm very proud of the fact that you stood forth before all of us, because this is being publicized. I mean, this isn't just this room. This is put out publicly. And I want to wish you the best of luck and therefore second the motion. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Dorisio? Yes. Commissioner Pulaski?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson?
Aye.
Commissioner Tedesco?
Yes. Thank you very much. And seeing no further business, we are adjourned.